Alpesh Patel is CEO of Profinium Partners. We know you like the Poppy story. We'll give you plenty of time on that, but we have to start.
Can't wait to get onto that one.
We have to start with Donald Trump. And, OK, talk to us first about politics. We'll talk about the economics afterwards.
Well, actually, and I don't want to sound like I'm a Donald Trump apologist, but this story, in economic terms, was about the price of gold, the stock market. You know, reading it, if I didn't know anything about finance, I'd think it's the end of the world with Donald Trump becoming president. From a political view, some people may think so, including President Obama from his speech at the end of the world. I'm surprised these journalists covering this story didn't say, oh yeah, and the price of nuclear shelters has gone up as well. They're saying, oh, there's panic buying in gold because it's a safe haven. Gold isn't a safe haven. If you looked at the volatility of the price of gold, if you want to get on the back of something which could end up costing you a huge fortune by dropping in price, and besides which, safe haven, what do we do? Do we hoard? Have you got any gold on you? Do you hoard it and think, oh, no. in difficult times, you know, I'll dip into that? Apple is a safe haven, okay? Facebook is probably a safe haven, but not gold. And this notion that, oh, the stock market's tanking, we're at pretty much all-time highs. No, it's not even going down much. We're at all-time highs.
None of us are saying it's tanking.
No, but the journalists are saying, ooh, panic and worry and concern.
We could have had Le Figaro's front page, and it says, every single stock market in the world has plunged because Donald Trump could become president of the United States.
That is over-egging it, because we're talking about a 0.6% fall or something like that. I mean, that's not a plunge.
It's a complete
non-story. But that's what media and journalists do. That's what we do, isn't it? We kind of...
No.
We sometimes exaggerate
Don't
things.
say you're like all the rest of them, Sally. You're better than the rest of them. What they do is they're sensational, and particularly financial journalists. Let's not forget the crash in 2000, where the journalists were just egging up the companies and dragging them down, causing panic.
But Alpesh, one of the elements in this Guardian piece, which is all about market reaction, it says it talks about a shock Brexit-style victory for Donald Trump. But it wouldn't be a Brexit-style victory, would it? Because in the UK we had a referendum, and how that result is measured and the outcome is very different to in the US election.
Well, I
think in the sense that how the system works means that although he is looking like it's very popular and he's neck and neck, he may not get the job because of the way they've calculated the numbers at the end?
Yeah, well, no, I think there's a lot of similarities with Brexit in that they're having a referendum. It's called a general election. And it would be a shock if he won, because he's so unconventional, unusual for a political candidate. But what's happened to Britain since Brexit? Has there been some kind of economic collapse? No, absolutely not. And that's my point. Beforehand, and I was a Remainer, OK, beforehand, all this sensational talk, and they're doing the same thing with the markets at the moment, but thankfully, sensible people are not getting spooked.
But my point with the referendum is, with the referendum, every vote counts. They count every single vote. And it's this number of votes.
You think Americans don't count every vote?
No.
You're talking about the Electoral College.
Exactly. I'm talking about that system, which means the measurement of it all at the end means that Donald Trump may not necessarily win, even though it looks...
Do you know what I suspect will actually happen on this point? He'll win the popular vote, I suspect, but not win the individual states just because of how they calculate things.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
And that's what I think will actually happen. And guess who's going to get really angry? It's going to be Donald Trump. And the price of gold means that all those garish buildings he has, they're going to be very expensive for him to build.
OK, can you draw a connection between Donald Trump and the Brexit deal? Because it's part of an international, global economic phenomenon, isn't it? I mean, Donald Trump, Brexit, all this stuff, it's all tied together.
Well, it's this anti-establishment vote, and you can see that in the Philippines as well, and in various countries around the world, in other parts of Europe as well, where there's this sort of majority of people who feel that the political establishment have not represented them adequately, and they are feeling less well off economically and feeling like their story's not being heard by politicians. But this issue with Moody's, that's in the Independent as well, downgrading the UK economy to negative from stable, you're saying the UK economy hasn't fallen off a cliff, it's doing OK.
A classic example of sensationalising, and I'll tell you why. So this notion, let's see why it's important, the notion that, oh, you've been downgraded, sounds awful, doesn't it? And the idea is that if Moody's or these credit rating agencies downgrade a country, it's more expensive for that country to borrow money in the international markets. So when the British government has to finance its deficit and pay for the NHS and things, it becomes more expensive. Guess what happened after Brexit? Moody's downgraded the United Kingdom's sovereign debt rating. Guess what happened to the cost of debt? It was supposed to go up. It didn't. It became cheaper because the rest of the world said, oh, we better put our money in a safe place. Oh, I know, British government, let's lend money to them because that's a safe place. This is literally what happened. Our debt became the cheapest it's ever been in the history of the United Kingdom after Brexit. regardless of what the credit rating agency said. The same agencies that got it so spectacularly wrong after 2008 and the credit crunch, which they failed to see, which was their job to see. So it's sensationalising and trying to cause panic for the sake of selling newspapers.
The Philippine Daily Inquirer says that Malaysia has signed a defence deal with China, and that Rodrigo Duterte says if the US doesn't give us weapons, we'll buy them from Russia. If Donald Trump becomes president, the whole Asian pivot of Obama's is going to go up in smoke.
Not just Obama, but probably every other president since the Second World War. So the Americans are not going to have bases in the Philippines. Duerte is clearly unhinged in any event. The only part, and I don't want to defend him, the only part I liked was if you're getting rid of drug lords, not the people on the street, this is why it became controversial, yes, not his statements about Obama, but the nasty, evil ones right at the top, which he doesn't seem to be. It's the ones at the bottom who can't help it, the ones at the bottom of the ladder. So, OK, he buys his guns from Russia, and he says until he's deposed, got rid of, or whatever else, he says, oh, we're moving more towards the Russians. I think the Americans will be fine, and I don't think it's as much a worry to the Americans as Duerte likes to think it is.
Yeah.
Now the Times.
We've got 2 minutes, OK, for 2 stories.
So this is Adnan trying to keep control here.
No,
so Philip Green is on the front page. Basically, it would seem that the pensions regulator is going after him and his wife for more money in the pot to supply those who work for British Home Stores.
You know, this is a global problem, these pension deficits. And what's new here is pension regulators going after owners or previous owners and saying, wait a minute, you didn't run it. No suspicion of criminality. Let's be absolutely clear. This is not like the Maxwell case. This is, you didn't run it properly, we want money off you. And they've got powers of enforcement. That's what's interesting.
He's now saying, I have made a new proposal, I'm putting a substantial amount of money in the pot. How will it work out, do you think? How will this play out?
I suspect they'll do an enforcement action against him for some of the money. It's not just BHS, BT Group, BAE Systems, big companies, global companies we've heard of, huge deficits. It's a global problem. That's not to excuse whatever's happened at BHS, but we need a better solution than just trying to go after 1 or 2 people.
OK, we're all wearing poppies because it's in remembrance of those who have fallen during war. FIFA says it's a political symbol, but England and Scotland...
Do you know what I want to do with FIFA? OK, I want to do this to FIFA. They are absolutely insane. We are remembering the sadness, the sorrow of war. OK, it is a political symbol. Politicises freedom. If it wasn't for the British Second World War and getting rid of the Nazis and the fascists from Italy and the kamikazes from Japan, FIFA wouldn't exist. Football was invented in this country as an expression of freedom. And every single one of those 216 members of FIFA would agree with the British, which is you do wear the poppy, you allow the British to wear the poppy. And you know what Britain should do? Not just an armband, the whole damn shirt should be a poppy colour, and say to FIFA, we're going to create a separate organisation and stuff you guys. You're crazy.
That's a perfect way to end. Not necessarily agreeing with you, but a perfect way to end. In terms of timing.
The gloves were off as usual. We'll see you soon.